My name is Dr. Thomas Chisholm. I've walked with the Lamb for over 25 years, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce him to you. Here's Dr. Malachi Z. York. Go ahead, Pop.
Thank you. Shalom, everybody. It's a great day and time we're living in. These are the days of the end of the world when all the prophecies are being fulfilled. And for me to be here amongst you today to break this spell, I merely ask you to give me your attention. Shalom. Now, hit me with that first question. Come on.
Yes, sir. Wunderbar. Question.
I have a question about the energy that's at the Earth Grid 18 that was used to shape the Coral Council. Is that there's something that we can use here to allow us to be self-sufficient for energy?
Well, we couldn't even hear it because the reason why League Scouting spends so much time trying to locate the right spot is because it has to be over coral reefs, and beneath it, running water, rushings of water that create the electrical friction that he needs. He finds strategic places on the planet where that's at. You just happen to be in a village. A lot of times in Africa, they're in a village right above it, and they'll see a miraculous events take place, or the medicine man or the shaman might he might learn exactly where that spot is and build his little area around that spot and have things levitating, and everybody in the whole village goes, ooh la la, this guy got a lot of power. The Hindus are real good at finding those things. 1,000 rods and all that, they can find the magnetic fields. They set up their little religious ashrams, or the mutasawwaf set up their little camps there because in that area there's electric. It's a very natural phenomenon if you know something about science. The sad part about it is religion spends a lot of time trying to avoid science because science would prove most of the things that are miraculous or phenomenal in religion wrong. So the best thing to do is keep everybody away from science. And when you break away and you find certain things like the magnetic grid, how currents affect the planet, a new island is coming up in Hawaii. Right? They're talking about it in the news now. And what happens is the Hawaiian priests are saying the gods are bringing them a new island for them. Actuality, it would have happened whether their gods did it or not. It's just it's like a volcano under the ground erupts in it. And when it erupts beneath the sea surface, the water rushes in, cools it off. It starts to what? Automatically swell, and it pushes its way up. So in a couple of years or so, I'm just saying a couple, it could be a couple of thousand by their belief, right? A new island will pop up, and they'll have a prediction confirmed. You see, and then the priests will look holier than holy, because now this island came up from nowhere. They don't take no risk on predictions that are not scientifically verifiable, especially, again, like I said, in a religious community where they do everything in their power to avoid science, which is very convenient, which makes us, kind of different than most people because we dove into science. And if you make predictions through science, you got to be accurate. You follow? If you make predictions through religion, you can just change it. Like Jehovah's Witnesses, they made a multiple amount of predictions, they didn't come true, but there's still more Jehovah's Witnesses than there are Baptists. So as long as you're religious, it doesn't really make no difference. So we transformed from the religious community into a more scientific community when we escalated from the degree of Islamism on up to Nuwaupu, moving from that 3rd degree to the 4th degree of study. When we got here, it's all scientific facts. So everything we say got to come true. And because we've been blessed by the presence of the Elohim, the Neptune water, Anunnaki, everything we've said since we've been under the guidance of the Anunnaki is starting to come true. Now they talk this morning on television about life on the planet Europa. And we know the frugal rods are from Europa. That's in our doctrine. We know how that happened. All of a sudden, we talk about it, it pops up. It's interesting. I listened to a guy called Reverend Valentine or something like that. And the masters, they gathered. And all they're doing is talking about Enki and Enlil and the grid and the magnetic grid and fuselage and time warping and zero references and crafts coming at the end and why the planet is going through these autoclimatic changes. And they might as well be sitting in one of our classes. You follow? But never will they mention that it's coming to us. It's just a matter of time before whatever this guy's saying, he has to wait for the next book. And so let's do our job. Let's give him something to talk about if it's saving souls. You follow? So it has to do with a selection of the proper locale in Florida. And he found 2 spots, because the first spot was not magnetic enough for him to do, so he picked up and he moved to another place. You follow? And he knew that because Tesla told him. You know, that was, they were related. Yeah. All right, first of all, let me Okay, small biology. When people run the words, this micro means, Greek for macro, most tiny biology. So that means you're not doing much. They got little books like this. That's all it means. Little teeny ways. You watch these words, because the devil is good with words. Right? The main point is for people now that you have digested a large part of the Holy Tablets. And predominantly it seems like chapter 6 seems to be the one everybody likes to stay in. I don't know why. All the emails about chapter 6, right? There's so much information in there. I've been starting to expound on information in it because a lot of people think it can't be explained. But when you deal with ethers, ethers are dealing with the key of nothingness that I told you all about years ago. I said there's a state called nothingness. Right? And I said you had to create a state of nothingness to create something in it. To the layman ear, that sounds like mumbo jumbo, because I know if I heard it from somebody, in a layman state of mind, I said, what the heck does that mean? Can you create nothingness? Right? But the creation of nothingness is when a form of energy is in transit to another state. Meaning, when you on earth plane, and we'll keep it simple, when you on earth plane go back to the lightest element before the quark was identified, you got back to hydrogen. And you know that because they called it 1. So anything on the other side of 1 is 0. And 0 means non-existence. Out, right? Not here. Okay, so when hydrogen was thought to be the lightest element, right, and the first principle of existence, and this was pre-quark, then quark did exist. You understand that? But it was not known to exist. And scientists worldwide, in all fields of scientific endeavors, were accepting the principle of hydrogen as the lightest element. You with me? But did quartz exist insofar as they got more sophisticated with computers and larger telescopes, and they were able to find a quartz within the hydrogen. So while the hydrogen was identified as the lightest element in the first stage of existence, insofar as quartz did exist, quartz was existent in a state of nothingness until they get to the other side of hydrogen and become something. Something simply is S-U-M-T-H-I-N-G, not S-O-M. That's phonetics. The something, I mean, it sums up to something. See, an hydrogen atom sums up to something. Nothing means no thing. And no is symbolic of number. When you're going to write number, instead of writing N-U-M-B-E-R, you write N-O and then tattoo to imply number. So no thing is something without its number. You with me? I don't want to sound like I hate mumbo jumbo teachers, because they can sound deep and don't make no sense. And I don't want to sound like that. I want you to grasp this because you got to teach it. When you get on the side of hydrogen, right, you step into no thing if hydrogen is the lightest thing in existence. It doesn't mean that nothingness doesn't exist. It means that nothingness hasn't become one of the things that exist. Didn't have a number. You start dealing with the ethers when you get down to the quark. Like years ago I said, well, when you get down to hydrogen, on the other side of hydrogen is Allah. Because Allah would have to stand
the whole non-existent state to be ghaibi, yet exists. The ghaibi is the word they use in the Quran for unseen. In order for Allah to exist and not be perceived, he must not sum up to a thing. You follow? Though he is a thing, he can't sum up to a thing. He can't be calculated as a thing. So the best thing they could do was say, Allahu Ahad. See? Allah is alone. And then some unknowing, egotistical Imam scholar said, Allahu Wahid. And I don't know if you remember, there was a conflict in the best names of Allah as to whether it should be Wahid or Ahid. Muslim scholars were battling because they didn't have the esoteric information, because they had become tunnel vision, which I'll explain in a minute why and how Muslims become tunnel vision, to the point where they could no longer listen for the voice of Allah to give them the answer. They only had to listen to the voice of scholars and Sahaba and sheikhs and Molanas and Imams and Muftis and opinionating mortals. You follow me? So we would say hydrogen is one this way and ether is one this way. Ether one is the first part of non-particle or non-participle. You see? Non-particle. Going that way. Existence that doesn't sum up to solid, liquid, and gas. Because the number they want it to sum up to is 3. Now, when you get solid, liquid, and gas, and you get down to hydrogen, is it solid, liquid, and gas, or is it gas, liquid, and... See, they teach you solid, liquid, and gas because you're coming from 99 degrees of matter that each have an atomic number that all sum up to something. Coming down this way. And when you get down to the last 3 degrees of it, it becomes, coming from this way, solid, liquid, gas, and then it goes into ultra this, exoplasm. It's moving out of the state of the degrees of something. You with me? When they say solid, liquid, and gas, how do you relate to that? Solid is the mass, the body. Liquid is the blood, the plasma, right? The plasma. And gas is the ether, the soul. You follow that? Those are the stages going in. And at what point do you meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or El Elo, or Anu, or whatever name makes you feel comfortable? Do you meet him in the solid? Do you meet him in the liquid? Or do you meet him in the gas? You meet him in the gas. Because you meet him as you scale up the planes from the material plane, solid, you see that? To the plane of force, water, energy, water creates current. And after the solid, which is the mass, the body, the liquid, which is the water, the blood, then you have the gas. So you have the physical plane, the plane of force, now what's next? Plane of force, and after that, the spiritual plane. And this is where people say you meet the Most High at the... Now you take those 3 planes and overlay them in the degrees of existence, which are Nasut, Malakut, and Lahut. Then you get Nasut, the plane of men, mortal, solid. Then you get Malakut, angelic, the plane of force, energy, angelic beings. And then you get Lahut, the spiritual plane. And it keeps saying, what is the spiritual plane? The etheric plane. Now, you were there, which is here, when the word was said exists. I don't know if you ever heard that before, but you may get a better understanding of it now. You were in that etheric state, which became this physical state. You were there, which is when the word was spoken, be. You follow that? So then, again, from hydrogen down, from that point on, Allah exists. You follow that? He just exists through that whole state. Both this wing and that wing, be it the physical elements or the etheric elements, are all within the all. So it is plainly and simply said in the Quran that Allah is in the heavens. And I would present the question, if Allah is the all, how can he be in fi samawati? Jesus said it, our Father, Abana alladhi fi samawati. Our Father who art in the heavens. The Quran says it, Allah nuru samawati wal ard. Allah is the light of the heavens and the earth. The Torah follows it, the Torah, everybody. Why are they saying that? Because they recognize that Allah is in the all. And we can't get to the all. See how Christians did it? But by way of, and we can't get to Allah but by way of the angels. And we couldn't get to the angels but by way of the prophets. And we couldn't get to the prophets but by way of our own awareness. We had to become conscious that we needed this spiritual guidance, and that these would be stepping stones back to the bosom of Allah. Why would I want to get into the bosom of Allah? Because when I'm embraced in the love of Allah, ish, divine love, then I'm in the path of the all. This is taking the stepping stones back. So now, when they start asking about beings that vibrate on different degrees of ether, when you say from one, meaning from hydrogen into quartz, and quartz are going to extend until they understand bias. Right? And they might not get the full understanding of bias for another 100 years. How long it took them to find out about Adam and then find out that there's a quartz. And you're talking about it now the way Galileo talked about it 100 years before his time. Things he mentioned that they disagree with, now they have to accept once they put his mentor to death. You know what I'm saying? You come again to present scientific fact that is inevitably going to confirm itself insofar as quartz have been confirmed. So when you say that nothingness does exist, no one can deny you that fact. But as long as the scientific community only acknowledged the presence of hydrogen, and they were all in agreement, you look like the nut. There's nothing wrong with looking like nut. Nut was the mother of Ra. Tricky words. And Ra was the sun, which they all worship. There's nothing wrong with it. You follow, you introduce things to the world that once you're gone, people say, that's what they stood for. As long as somewhere along the line they grasp the depth of it. So now each being or each density level, and when I say density level is speaking about a process. To densify is to go towards hardening. Are you with me? This is what you got to understand. When they speak about the vortex and the screen of vortexes that are above us, and they speak about it in density levels, you would only identify this density from where you are, from how dense you are now. From what I am in matter. Meaning, if I look at the element charts, and I look at iron, which is 26 atomic number, right? And it has more denseness than does carbon, which is 6. You with me? So iron identifies carbon. Iron is on a more dense level than carbon. You follow? Man has to define in that etheric state versus that physical state, because it's simple to find out what density level you're on in the physical state by the elements that are in your body, and what is the most dense of them? Iron. What was? When you came here, it was gold and platinum. When the primary element of your physical composition as you personified was platinum, you produced a topaz complexion. All this is described in the Bible when they talk about the elders and how they looked, and they give stone complexions of Jesus' complexion. They give topaz, and they give green like an emerald from Melchizedek, saying these people can. Then when you go back to the pictures of ancient Egypt and look on the wall, you see people green, and then you see people bluish color. See, when gold oxidizes, it'll give off a greenish shade before it turns to a darker color, like copper. Right? And platinum will give off a blue hue, or blue hue. So as you materialize, depending on which way you came, whether you came from an environment that was dependent on gold as the base element for strength, or platinum as the base element for strength, or earth, which has more iron ore than anything else. You see? This planet now is based on iron ore. So you breathe in more oxygen, which is really a poison to you. And it triggers iron, and what does it do? Rust when mixed with the water. Thus you're no longer green. You're brown. Some babies who are born with breathing problems have green spots all in the body. And you'll ask the doctor, what's these green spots? Oh, they'll go away in time. He said, I didn't ask you where they were going. I asked you how they got there. And they basically can't tell you. They'll be going. That's because that child, while in the womb of the mother, when it began to breathe inside through its gills, was not taking in that poison air. You follow? When it came into the world and started to breathe, it turned bluish color. And then you see green spots. That's the color we were before we became more dense. You see? Now you'll find that people with the strongest root of divinity left in their body, keloid. When if I, as a deity, in my own realm of existence, breathing my kind of environment, and surrounded by my sons, and eating the things from the soil from which I am shaped from. In other words, in that perfected state, if I was struck by an axe and my hand was cut off, I had the power to regrow a hand. You understand that? Now down here, where I'm cut off from all of that, and that's you too, when you get scarred, the attempt to regrow a limb results in what's called keloid. They'll say it's because you have a lot of plasma, hemoglobin structure, the way your cells meet. They got a bunch of scientific terms, and the word science always means seeking, which means they still haven't figured it out. These are things that we lost. Balding, was never something we feared because we never had hair. When you see the ancient Chemi, the word is Chemi, from which they get Kemet, or El-Ham, right, for the land of the blacks, which comes from Ham, now confirmed in the latest edition of the Quran as released by Saudi Arabia this year in their new translation. They got Adam of black mud, when they was arguing with us about it for the last 25 years. Riyadh just released a new translation. It has Adam of black, and that's in the 15th chapter, 28th verse, and then in the 20th chapter, 102nd verse, they've added the blue eyes. It says Zulqa, blue eyes. Stuff they didn't, agree with, but it's cool. It's all right with us because we know we right and exact. But now they introduced this word, Kemet. And all the Egyptologists are saying, we're from Kemet. They spell it K-E-M-E-T. And because they're lacking the gift of tongues that you have, they can't see Kemet, it's El-Kam from Pam. Or they say Temera. Some people are naming their children Temera. They don't even know what they're naming their children. Tamara is Tamarah. Tamarah, ancient Egyptian name meaning the blackened sun. Tamara. Very common black name, isn't it? Tamara. Yo, Sister Tamara, come here. You don't know that Tamarah. Look at that Ra throughout that name. It was the gift of seeing interdimensionally, like the sun does. The sun sees interdimensionally because it is thought not to be seeing at night when Set, S-E-T. You follow? When Set is supposed to be ruling. And it was believed that the sun Ra went into the sea because it looked to the onlooker that the sun was going down behind the sea, so its light walked the water that way also. Not just as Christians have Jesus walks the water toward them, but if you're watching it in the evening, you can watch the sun's light go back across the water and then behind. In the ancient Kemet, we thought that Ra went into the sea and that he only got out because a scarab would link there and lift him up and move him through the sky. And thus the scarab became sacred, the bug. All these are part of our symbolisms in our culture. And from that, to get to the point, Kemet came alchemy. The word alchemy. We dealt with the sciences then of alchemy when in Egypt. Some people say we were left in Egypt. They don't know what they're talking about. When they refer to us as Mitzrayim, they're talking about the seed of Ham coming over. Some of them mixed in with Canaanites and became known as the Philistines and resided in an area called Gerar, where a Cubaland is passing on into Sinai and became known as the Hyksos. Egyptian Philistines who became light-skinned with wavy hair, who eventually conquered the lower Egypt, which was the upper Egypt. They conquered the ruling domain of Amun, but not of Ra. See, Amun was of the lower, which is the upper, but they played the flip-flop. And when them two gods, as deities came together, became known as Amun Ra. And now with the unification of the sciences from above and beneath. These beings dealing with chemistry are the ones that labeled us Etherians. And they said from the Etherians, there were degrees from that 100% Etherian to that 90%, 80%, 70%, and we're boasting with 9. Not realizing what 9 ether really means. We're talking about when our hair started to turn back in. That's 9 ether. When we were at 100% Etherian, we didn't have hair or what? Or density, body. This is a lower state we're bragging about. This is a lower state. So by the time you get down to the 3rd ether being, this is a being that has dropped from 9. Follow what I'm saying? It's called a helix level. Where we were way up here with 19, and now we're down on 6. Why are we on 6? Because a lot of our children are now being born without 9 ether. A gaseous state. A gaseous state is a spiritual state. That is the state after liquid. Thus, the era of water, as I said, has passed away. And the era of air, or ether, is in. The religion that based everything on water, like dipping people in water, calling it baptism, and wudu, and ghusl, and all these types of things, everything with water, are leaving. And the era of ether comes in. How important is that? It's important because prayer. Prayer. How many people want to pray? If a person was asked, why do they want to pray? They would say everything from I think I need it, till it helps me spiritually, to what? Helps me get in tune with myself. Go ahead. Huh? Because I want something. Okay. Reverence to the Most High, maybe. Okay. Get in tune with the higher. Good. Any else? Trying to connect back to eat with parents. That. Any else? Submission. Good. You finished? Okay. Prayer is the art of talking and not listening. Meditation is the art of listening and not talking. You will find that people that pray the most are going to be the hardest to reach with the truth. See, because they gather in decorated rooms with Arabic crosses or stars of David or whatever. And once they get assembled in ranks and files or seats or whatever, they do not shut up and listen for the inner voice to give them a message. No prophet has ever said, I received a revelation while I was praying. They say, I received a revelation while I was meditating. Muhammad went up into the mountain, away from everybody, and fasted. And then he prayed, and then he sat and waited. And listened. So as I said, when a person is indulging in prayer, they're talking. If it's an Islamic prayer, they start off with Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, but they're talking. They're not listening. And in the midst of this ritual, they have a scholastic ritual of prostration, qiyamah, and sajda, and back, and they do a whole bunch of stuff. And then when they stop, they was pointing the finger this way, and they looking up, looking, they're greeting things. They're greeting angels that ain't there. Now there's a brother sitting there trying his best to be an angel. They're not acknowledging him, but they're going, something ain't in the Quran nowhere either, by the way. But they have all of this talking, and they get up, and they go, Salaam alaikum to each other, and they go home. And they wait for the next of the 5 prayers to do the exact same ritual. Not once are they told, sit down, shut up, and listen for that voice inside that you mentioned. And listen to what it's saying. You know why people don't want to do that? Because the voice inside will tell you the truth about yourself. You can't lie to yourself. You might not want to hear what that voice has to say about you. So those kind of prayers are convenient. The Catholic Church the same way. The father's up there, or whatever he's called, the Monsignor, and he got all this literally clothes on and carrying on. He's in Latin, he's running on. Nobody's thinking. Get Hail Mary from the grace and his Bob and everybody's doing all this stuff, and nobody's. You know what I'm saying? They want to keep you praying. Now, so well, why did we pray for so many years? Because you were listening to any and everything. You had to stop listening in order to hear the truth. You had to discipline yourself, gather in a room. There's nothing wrong with a jump start, an early morning prayer, a jump start of some physical and oration of gratitude and thanks for getting up that morning. But by the time you get to the afternoon or the evening, you know, it's time to sit down and assimilate that day of events and what part it plays in this short journey through life that you're on. And then before you go to rest at night, then it's all right again to say, thank you for getting me through this day. And may I rest comfortably through this night. And thank you for my family and everybody else. And then go on into a state of rest or deep rest called sleep until the next morning. That's pretty good. But to keep a person praying constantly is to keep a person not thinking. And that's why it's harder to convert a Muslim than anybody else. Because they're not trained to listen. From the time you start prayer, it's because I hear someone calling me. Call the other.
Then I got to run into a room and do a ritual of wudu, washing and adua. I'm saying something as I'm washing. Then I go into the masjid and I sit down and I start my niyyah. I'm saying something. And if I get any time to rest, they say pick up the Quran and read it. Don't sit there and think. If you get a little gray area, grab your Quran while you're waiting for prayer. Say the Imam comes late. What they tell us to do? Grab the Quran, sit there and start reading. So we would sit down, we're still not sitting there just simply thinking. In fact, in Islam, if you finish salah and a brother or sister stayed in the mosque in prostration, you would say, is that person crazy? Why is that person still kneeling down in the mosque? If someone stayed after prayer and was laying on the floor because they wanted to be in tune with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we would assume something was wrong with that person. And we wake up, you fall asleep, brother or sister? Are you okay? They say, yeah, I just want to sit there for a while. What's wrong? I just want to tune myself in with my God. Well, you can't do that here, brother. That's taking place in the Muslim world right now. If you go to a religious environment and you don't do what they want you to do, step by step, ritual by ritual, they consider you a threat and they're ready to bodily remove you. You go to the Church of God, called churches, and they're locked on Sabbath. You go to the synagogues of the Jews and they're locked on Sunday. Most mosques are locked every day but Friday. They're not serving that purpose. They don't want you to start the inner journey, to link up with the God within yourself. You follow that? Because that'll start you toward the bosom of Allah. And when you get in the bosom of Allah, you'll see what the Christians were talking about when they said Jesus was God. You have to get to the highest point of physical, from the lowest point of physical, to master physical. And you yourself or myself as physical are at the lowest point of physical. I'm as physical as I should be. And that has nothing to do with your actions and your deeds and how much pork you eat, or that's not me. I mean, your very state of existence as a dense body is as physical as you could be. You can't get any harder. Now, of course, if you take a martial arts course and take a bag of hot sand and continue to bang your fist inside it until you get calluses and say click, 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 click on your knuckles, you can assume you got harder. You didn't get harder. You got nearer to getting skin cancer. It may be cute. You may feel cool with calluses on your hands and calluses on your feet, and you can go bang rocks. It's very easy to break a brick because bricks don't fight back. A whole bunch of wood and some guy jumped up and goes hi-ya, boom, and breaks, and everybody goes clack, 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 clack. Let them hi-ya, boom, something hard as a brick like a rhinoceros. See how you handle that. You are as dense as you can become as a being. Your journey is definitely the other way. But you must first study the degrees of density, which is introduced to you by religion. Because religion separates you from the spiritual realm by declaring you other than God. And declaring God or Allah or whatever name that spiritual, thus confirming that you must be physical. And that your journey from this physical state is to the spiritual realm. See how you do it? So you stay caught up in religion, separating yourself from God, praying to God. And when a man like this say, the great Honorable Elijah Muhammad comes along and says, give them back their spookism, he insults your intelligence. You actually get offended. When a person says, brother, you are God. I ain't no God. God is up in heaven. God is spiritual. He said, you are God. Now, even in the Nation of Islam, they didn't listen to the lessons close enough to catch what he was saying. They said, man, he is God. Talking about Fard or Farad or whatever name they chose. That's him right there. That's not what the lesson said. The lesson said, who is the original man? The Asiatic black man, maker, owner, creator of planet Earth. They also added father of civilization, God of the universe. And that was not an Asiatic black man, because, catch it now, that couldn't have been Farad. Because Farad was not an Asiatic black man. He was a half original, like Moses, as they put it. Not an original man. Now his father was an original man, according to their teachings, and his mother was a Caucasian, according to their teachings. That doesn't make him a Saudi Arabian. That makes him a mulatto. To be a Saudi Arabian, you have to have a Saudi Arabian mother and a Saudi Arabian father. The word mulatto was a compliment. The word mulatto comes from moled. It's an Arabic word. One who is of the sun. One who's of an original birth. That's where it comes from. Look it up. You know me. Don't believe me? Check it out. So now, if that lesson says that Allah, the original man, is Asiatic black man, maker, owner, creator of planet, father of civilization, last and most important, but God, then he was trying to teach them that all of you are God. That's not that far. That's in the Psalms and it's in the book of St. John. If you're not reading the law, I said you are God. That brother there thinks he's a prophet. Me. He thinks he's the Messiah. I'm not a prophet. I'm not the Messiah. Though I do prophesy, I don't want the title. It's limiting. Though I am a Messiah, because I anoint people, and I was anointed, I don't want to be the Messiah. It's limiting. I'm God. And so are you. If you take a drop of water out of the ocean and put into that drop of water micro living beings, that drop becomes an ocean. You with me? It's only a drop when it's in the presence of the ocean. When it's all to itself, it in itself is an ocean. And if I am in the image and after the likeness of God, and that God that they speak about in Genesis is an Elohim, consisting of both good and bad qualities, cherubim and seraphim, or Tov and Ra, however they want to put it. If I am a God, and they said, well, look now, the man has become like one of us to know. So if I am like that God, and that God has good and evil, that explains why I do so much evil. So much shadiness and shiftiness. And don't act like you don't. That also explains why you want to do good, and do good by others. Right? Because it's their honest. And that makes us that drop of water from that great ocean, the all. And I don't care how far you take water away from the ocean, it's always trying to get back. You put water in your hand, it'll seep through your fingers, through the cracks of your hand, and if not, it will evaporate into the atmosphere. If you put it into a contained environment where it can't seep through, you let that water sit there, and it may take months, but that water will evaporate. Go up there and come back down and find its way back to that ocean. If they mix coffee in it, and sugar in it, and milk in it, when it gets into your body's going to split the water. Take the coffee and the sugar, and the milk, and then take the water out of the milk. You follow that? And maintain 3/4 of that body as water. So if the body maintains this liquid state, it then already passed the solid state. It's already on its way back to the ocean. See, Christianity is a physical state. That's why we call it first degree crisis. It's all based on the death of a man.
and the resurrection of a man. For you to receive perfection, you must pass through this physical thing. That's physical. Mosesism is the law. It's not the physical, it's the gas. It's law, it's ritual, it's practice. But it's not there. Nowhere in Judaism they say you should die to go to heaven for your sins. It says kill something else. Sacrifice a lamb, a goat, a dove, a turtle dove, an oxen, but don't sacrifice human beings. So they got it backwards. It should be Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. You see what I'm saying? Not Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. They got it backwards. That's the gases thing. When you get to Islam, it's all supposed to be spiritual. But what happened is, the leftover Christians and the leftover Jews conquered Islam. That's why Islam was called Islam, a state of peace. But the mortals, the seraphims, want to define it as submission. Because submission is bodily and spiritual or gaseous liquid participation. I submit. They say wholeheartedly. Body and soul, all remnants is due to Allah, no equal has he. All is physical. They removed that the highest point of Islam was the mutasawwif, the Sufi. That all Muslims, the Quran keeps saying, dhikr Allah, dhikr Allah, dhikr Allah, remember Allah. Remembering is not talking. So they took remembering to say, oh, you want me to remember Allah? Now listen to this. This is Islam. Dhikr. Remember Allah. So they sit down and go, Allah, 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 Allah. That's not remembering. When I say to you to remember your childhood, you immediately start on an inner journey back to your childhood. You go inside yourself back in time to find a point in your childhood that you prefer. Because I didn't specify, remember your first beating, or your first doll, or your first bite, or your first fall, or your first boyfriend, or your first school date. I just said remember your childhood, which is such a massive amount of time that you have to decide where in that childhood. You see? So when someone says remember Allah, they're saying go inside back, like your childhood, and find some point in there where you can remember something Allah has done. You might go back and say, I remember the day my little brother was born, and I was standing there, and when he came out, it was just fantastic to see life emerge from the womb. Allahu Akbar. You know, that might be the way you remember Allah. You might be, I was there when my grandmother died. I was there when she took her last breath. And she looked like she looked over at me. And she sighed and she smiled. And I heard her take that breath. Allahu Akbar. I remember when I first went to church, and I was sitting there and the Rebbe was just preaching. And my grandmother was on this side, my grandfather was on this side, and my friend was over there, my uncle was over there. It was a church, you know, a family church. And it was so beautiful. I just got this feeling inside. I felt so warm and loved and accepted. I remembered Allah. That's dhikr Allah. I can do that with Judaism, Buddhism, whatever. It doesn't have a denomination. Because it's taking you back on a journey to where you re-linked up with the divine. You made connections with your ethnic parents. The real you.
أبدركل صلوتات وفاكر بي بعمل الكلام أني داخل إلى شوق شيل الكلام وكل أشوق إذا داخلني أني فروغ شيل الكلام والكلام إذا فروغ شيلني أني واحد مع الكلام والكلام إذا واحد معني أن الكلام أنجه كما أرغون شيل الكلوم وخبز كما تفردون أني أكلوا أكل كوديك إني أقفيز داخل الكلوم كما خفاز إذولية أحمد داخل الكلوم أني أبدا واحد الكلوم إيزو أني إيزو الكلوم يأكلوا أني آكلوا الكلوم يبملوا أني أبملوا. Begin all prayers and thinking by using al-kalum. I am in the love of the all, and all love is in me. I am a part of the all, and the all is part of me. I am one with the all, and the all is one with me. I can succeed as a part of the all, and fail as an individual. I can be all that I wish in the all, as long as my wish is to stay in the all. I am never alone. The all is, I am. The all can, I can. The all does, I do.